What a terrific episode of Twin Peaks, Season 1, Episode 5. I'm Leonard Scott Collins, and you're looking at the Qabalah of Twin Peaks. I'm going to go through every episode of Twin Peaks and break it down by the numbers, according to an obscure numerological system, which I promise I'm not making up. Wow. What a great episode of TV. I think my favorite scene is where Leland they're all watching, celebrating, and about the Nordic types, the Icelanders, I think, maybe, trying to purchase the Ghostwood estate, and Jerry Horn is trying to make a speech, and then somebody starts playing this amazing jazz music, which makes Leland freak out and start dancing, and he starts grabbing his head because he's freaking out, and then everyone else starts doing the head grab dance, and then it's a really jovial atmosphere, really pleasant, beautiful music, people doing this new dance that Leland's invented, all orbiting out from the internal crisis. And then Audrey comes in and sees what's going on, and she sees it. She's the only one there who can actually see it, and so she starts crying, and she's the only one crying in a room full of people dancing about Leland crying. It's just, oh man, it's just so cool. It's just so cool. Numbers. We don't have a lot of numbers straight off, and they're trying, a deliberate attempt is made to kind of break the color story. We got some pastels in the early part of this episode. People wearing gray. I mean, there is gray on the Tree of Life. Cather is white. Cather Chokmah is gray. Binah is black. In the Queen's scale, but I don't get a strong Chokmah sense from anything that's going on here. To me, it really seems like an attempt to kind of break that color story for the first little bit of the episode and make us dwell on the events, the performances, the things that are going on in the story, the actors, not worry about all this bright scene design and wonder what that means. We do get a number. Cooper is woken up at 4:28 in the morning by the jovial Icelanders. A large group of insane men staying on his floor. And if you look at the number 428 up in Sephir Sephiroth, you don't get anything significant. There's about 5 words, and none of them triggered for me. But if you add 4 to 8 together, you get 14. And remember, in the last episode, we made a big deal about Bobby's T-shirt that said "The Guilty 4 plus 1." And so 14 is 1 and 4. Are we being clued that this episode is going to be largely about solving that mystery of who are the 4 plus 1? The very next scene is, I think, if I'm remembering it right, because I don't have notes, but I think the very next scene is where Ben and Jerry are talking about Heba, and then Jerry throws the big leg of lamb up on Ben's desk and says it was a gift from Heba. And he says, with a little bit of garlic and fresh mint, it'll be rotisserie heaven. He wants to take the leg of lamb and put it on a stick, spit roast it. Can we think of any other lambs that are on sticks? Jesus, the Lamb of God on the cross. The lamb on a stick. And this is the great sacrifice, sacrificing the Son of Man for the sins of man, and it comes from The gift comes from a budding sexual relationship. The power of the lamb of the sacrifice comes from woman to do honor to Jerry Horn, as Jesus comes from Mary. And then Leland shows up and he says he's scared to go away and spend alone time with his spouse. Could it be because he's already killed another member of his family? So already we're starting to deal with this question of who are the 4 plus 1? Because Cooper woke up at 4:28 in the morning. It gets a little better though, because Margaret, they end up at that cabin in the woods later on. 4 plus 1. Andy, Sheriff, who cares? Andy, the good sheriff, the cool sheriff, Cooper, and Doc Hayward all end up at the cabin, at Margaret Lenterman's cabin. Another 4 plus 1. And there, she gives them the vision that the log received the night Laura died. The owls are circling. The owls are crying. It's very, very exciting. Loud noises, flashlights in the darkness. 2 men and 2 girls. And then, they go and in the night, maybe to this train car, and then outside, 1 man. So the guilty are the 2 men, the 2 girls, plus 1. So it's not the 3 men, like I was guessing. It's not the 3 men that slept with Laura the night she died, plus Bob, and who is the 4th man, who is it, Bobby Briggs for dealing drugs to Laura, or is it, Ben Horn for supporting Laura in her career as a sex worker. The 4 guilty people are Laura, Ronette Pulaski, Jacques Renault, Leo Johnson, plus 1. And we have those 4 names, so the plus 1, that's the rest of our mystery. Guilty 4 plus 1. Of course, we know who that is. Anyway, cool. She also says, during that same interaction, fire is the devil hiding like a coward in the smoke. Characters who smoke. Let's see. Gordon Cole smokes a little bit, but he gave it up. That's interesting. Gordon Cole smokes a little bit, but he gave it up. We want to think of Gordon Cole as Cooper's tutor, Cooper's magical teacher, listening to his dreams, encouraging him to journal, mentoring him on the Blue Rose cases. This is a big deal. Gordon used to smoke, but he gave it up. Fire is the devil hiding like a coward in the smoke. Who else smokes? When we meet Diane, she will chain smoke. The Diane Tulpa will chain smoke. Is there a devil hiding like a coward there? I think we can say for sure there is. The hardest one to justify is Shelley Johnson. She lights a cigarette, though, at the very top of the scene, which ends by shooting Leo. So the gun could be the devil hiding like a coward behind that smoke. And who else is smoking in this episode? Josie is smoking in this episode. And so far, Josie seems like a dupe, but Josie is Josie, and once we watch the rest of the series, we'll find her. We'll find the devil hiding in that smoke. So that's cool. There's got to be more to it than that, but but we're working on working on it. We're building it. And again, this is sort of just regular cinematic language. That's not Qabalah stuff. We don't, Kabbalists don't have the same fear of fire that Margaret does. The fire isn't just like the devil, although there is a lake of fire that is a burning place, but fire is also a rarefied thing that purifies the spirit. It's the highest of the four elements before you get to spirit. The process of purification, Crowley says, is quickly completed. You wash things to make them just what they are, but progress towards holiness, which is done by the application of fire. That never stops. It's a lifetime of progressing towards holiness, more than a lifetime. Bobby now is no longer in purple. His guilty 4+1 t-shirt that was purple has been traded in for a blue one, kind of a muted blue one, symbolizing the benevolence of Chesed. It's interesting. I think in the first episode he was wearing red because that's the school colors or something. And then purple, which we decided was probably not Yesod or Binah, as it probably should be. Binah is a stretch already because it's the angel of Binah that wears purple, not the Sephira itself in the Queen's scale that's that color. But we decided that Bobby's purple was probably this balancing act he's doing between the forces of mercy and the forces of severity, between Chesed and Gevurah. And now he's wearing blue, which is weird because, of course, Gevurah is severity, that's the red, and what Bobby's talking about is doing a frame-up job on Leo Johnson, like planting evidence and then sort of trying to tip the cops off, and of course the cops will find the evidence they're looking for. He's telling Shelley to be quiet about it. There's this whole joke about, Leo, sit right here while Shelley makes us both breakfast. No, the joke is, Leo, you cook for us. Since you don't like Shelley's cooking, you can be our personal chef. And I'll shoot you in the face if you don't do it. So, and of course, Leo does end up getting shot, like in the arm, I think, not in the face. But so it's not a very merciful Bobby that's on display. And I think what's happening is that the red and blue, which are, the forces of Martian strength and the forces of Jupiterian kingly rule, like Jehovah and Zeus and Odin, who's also mentioned in this episode, Odin the One Eye. Think of the characters with one eye, and then One-Eyed Jacks. I mean, this is interesting. They specifically mentioned the sons of Odin, who are actually, I think, like a racist magical initiatory order, or maybe a biker club or something. In the real world, the Sons of Odin are like a club that are bad news, I think. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that. If you're a member of the Sons of Odin and want to stick up for yourself a little bit, please put it in the comments. And if you're racist, if you are racist, you can tell me that too, I guess. Suddenly curious about the Sons of Odin. Academically, I'm not going to join. I have too many cults of my own juggling. Anyway, but so I think what's happening is that just like the good guys are in blue and the bad guys are in red, I think it's going to be that simple, because the Black Lodge has the red drapes, and Renault's cabin has the red drapes. And so when someone's sort of on the wrong side of a conflict, they're going to be wearing red. And when somebody's on the right side of a conflict, they're going to be wearing blue. And this isn't going to be pure. They're going to acknowledge that there's some evil in the good and some good in the evil. But the idea of mercy and severity is being taken in sort of a brute, false good and evil, not black and white, but more black and white than I would be comfortable with in a real Kabbalistic philosophy class. But it's not a philosophy class, it's a TV show, and so, red and blue both represent conflict, and the good guys wear blue and the bad guys wear red. Of course, Catherine Martell is not a good guy. She shows up in blue, and Benjamin Horn is wearing the red tie, and I think he's got like a red pocket square or something going on. So what's going on there? Well, like, why does she get to wear blue? But she's confronting him about the fact that, like, he's committed to her, like he's been having sex with her, but also having sex with prostitutes. And, she could get a disease, or, maybe she's just jealous, because I thought it was just me and your wife. Like, I didn't know there were other girls involved. I thought you said you were going to stop going up there. So she actually does have a grievance. It's not, we've just been through the 80s. All the people died of AIDS, and it's so sad and brutal and torturous. And this guy is sleeping with sex workers as well as with two other women, and one of those two other women is confronting him. So she gets to wear the blue in that situation. I think that's fine. Look, no disrespect to sex workers. I'm a Thelemite. Whores are important to us. Prostitution is a sacred thing, and Babylon is the mother of harlots. I'm not saying whores are dirty. But the facts on the ground are that if the more sex you have, the more likely you are to have a disease, and Catherine Martell being like, a dowdy 40-year-old conservative, probably holds that suspicion more radically than I do. So yeah, be nice to sex workers. Like, come on, don't take anything I say as an excuse to go bully women on the internet. And please don't feel bullied by me. No one is watching these. I'm the only one watching these. Why am I getting up my own ass about it? It's an interpretation of the TV show. It's not my politics. I made that connection via the purple t-shirt last week between Bobby and Dr. Jacoby, because Bobby was wearing the purple and Jacoby had the glasses that were both red and blue. I didn't realize that the very next episode was going to be the one where Jacoby and Bobby are face to face for the first time in like family counseling, and then Jacoby gets to be alone with Bobby and confront him. It's like, the first time you had sex with Laura, did you cry? What the hell kind of question is that? You know, this sort of thing. Um, and then it's very, you know, they're very profound effect on each other when they're in the room. And the mystery is being excavated by these two people together, one of whom I said was using a bad, a badly curated. I mean, by that I mean the public face is not so good. He needs an image consultant, maybe a publicist. That's what they're called. Bobby needs a publicist to help craft his public image, because he's coming off like quite a son of a bitch, even though his mercy and severity are balanced in the cause of justice, which is why he now gets to wear blue, even though he's plotting against Shelley's husband. And Jacoby, though his public face is still more or less intact, his business isn't suffering. He's still doing pillar of the community stuff, although regardless of whether or not he had anything to do with Laura Palmer's death, I think that that the turtleneck and tie combo, he should be imprisoned just for that. But he hasn't been, and he's doing fairly well still. But his mercy and severity are poorly motivated, and he's self-destructive as well as destructive to the investigation. And when these two brute forces meet that I connected in the last episode, when they now meet in this episode, big stuff happens. We get this thing about some of the character of Bobby and Laura's relationship, that it was she who forced him to sell drugs, so his guilt, the suspicions of his guilt are rapidly dissolving, although her bad influence on him could be a motive for murder, but it doesn't feel like that at this point. And then he also says to Jacoby, with a statue of an owl looming behind them, watching, just a statue listening, this giant fuck-off owl, terrifying, broadly done, hand-carved, weird-looking owl relief carving thing hanging on the wall behind them. Bobby says Laura wanted to die. And Jacoby, how do you know that? She told me. So self-destructive Jacoby gets to hear that Laura was self-destructive with the owl hanging on behind. Again, I sort of think the owl is Laura Palmer. Because Laura Palmer is Lilith, and maybe owls go with Lilith. Yeah, that's right. Margaret Latterman's vision opens with owls in chaos, and then in the end, a lone girl's voice cries out a scream. A woman screams, and then the owls are silent. The owls are Laura Palmer, and here Laura Palmer gets to watch Bobby tell Jacoby that Laura wanted to die. Do you read The Lord of the Flies? Do you know that Baal or Belial, Baal, these become different demons in the canon as you work your way through. There are Baal, Baal, Belial. They become individual figures over time. The various grimoires and stuff, they'll be, maybe a different seal for Baal and a different seal for Belial, but they all came from the same biblical idea. The bad guys in the Book of Kings who whip themselves into a frenzy. But anyway, Baal is in the book that is called The Lord of the Flies. Baal is the Lord of the Flies. And he's a pig's head, and There's flies everywhere, and he's talking to one of the characters. And I think there's etymological reasons for that. I actually think you do. Although in Hebrew it has another meaning, but I think there is a way to get something about flies in deeper history than modernist novels. But when Margaret Lanterman starts to talk about all the things the log saw, a fly lands on Cooper's teacup, walks the perimeter, and then flies away. So Baal is listening, and as I've already said, because of the frog moth, because of the power of invisibility that Cooper Bob seems to have, and a few other subtle clues, I sort of decided that Bob was Baal. And I might be wrong about that, but I haven't yet read Twin Peaks: The Final Dossier. I just finished The Secret History, but I was listening to a podcast today where they said in The Final Dossier, Baal does show up as a character. So I'm feeling kind of proud of myself about my deductive skills there. That Baal has some sort of relationship with Judy, and they were speculating that Baal could be Bob's father. I don't know about that. I'll have to read it. But anyway, I'm going to continue with the interpretation that Bob is Baal and Judy is Babylon, at least for the time being. I think I'm running out of steam, man. I think I'm getting tired. It's been about a half an hour, and that's how long these have usually been running. I'm surprised. I thought this was going to take me about 10 minutes to just find two numbers and look them up, but it's been way more fruitful than I thought to have this discussion in this way. And of course, if you clicked onto this video, you probably clicked off at 1 minute 30. No disrespect, no complaint. I know this is here for me as a resource when I need it. So future me, you've been Leonard Scott Collins, and thank you for watching.
I gotta say one more thing. The number 50 is the letter Nun. That's N in Hebrew. And the associated tarot card is the Death card. The astrological sign is Scorpio. And because Scorpio is a watery sign, death is usually thought of as a watery card. And Nun, it's kind of got this little, it's kind of a straight line with a little diagonal hat on it and then a foot at the bottom. Nun is, we already talked about this thing where there are homonyms to all the Hebrew letters, and so they're associated with words in the same way our letter B it might be associated with the animal bee. And so Nun is associated with fish. So for David Lynch, fish and ideas go together. You wait for ideas in the same way you wait to catch a fish. But Kabbalistically, at least in the Thelemic Qabalah, you would say that the fish is also representative of death. And then Jesus gets in there too, because there's all sorts of miracles to do with fish, which is important because of the resurrection and the life and so forth. Jesus' relationship to death is an important part of his story and of his miracles. Hold on, why am I talking about the letter 50? What is apartment dweller like Jacques want with 50 gallons of heating oil, right? So 50 gallons of heating oil, and that number 50, we have fish and water and death and the scorpion. Wait. And so this tells us, and then Sheriff Truman says, log cabin, to heat a log cabin, and point up at the cabin with the red drapes. So this tells us that that log cabin is in fact really is associated with the death. I mean, if it had been 48 gallons of heating oil, I mean, it still would be Jacques' cabin, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't indicate the death cabin in the same way the number 50 does. And again, we have this relationship between water and fire because Noon is a watery card and Scorpio is a watery zodiac sign, but scorpion sting, that's the burn of the scorpion sting. The venom is often associated with burning, even though it's a liquid, because the feel can be the feel of burning. And of course we're talking all about the Black Lodge being a fiery, active, ephemeral place, and so the fact that it's heating oil is significant. And then remember later on we find out that Bob smells like burnt engine oil. So there's this element of this fiery element injected into that image of death by saying 50 gallons of burnt engine oil. Bye again.